Okay, we're in Figjam right now, and this is where we left off with our brainstorming session. Again, what we're trying to build here is a wine, beer, and spirits selector. So we had basically this first box here where we're thinking, okay, maybe start with wine, beer, and spirits. And then if I click on wine, then basically do my flyout of like red wine, white wine, specialty wines, and then clicking there would then pull you into the red wine section, or if you clicked on the white wine, so on, you would then go to the white wine. Okay, so and the specialties, maybe a fly out or drop down, champagne, sparkling desserts. We also have countries and states to deal with. So remember, the brainstorm portion of user experience is just getting all of your thoughts down kind of really quickly on a piece of paper or on a workflow or a graph, just trying to get everything put up. Next, what you want to do is kind of collect your thoughts there, consider it, and I'm using the space bar here. That's the hand. That lets me drag it over. Okay, that's a keyboard shortcut. And I'm going to zoom out here. And right here, this is kind of where I starting to think a little bit now of my actual workflow. So I'm thinking that it's going to have some kind of banner that is check our inventory. At this point, remember, this particular client does not have e-commerce capabilities. So they're just pulling in and having customers check the inventory that's available and calling in. So that's going to have a check out our inventory, some type of graphic or banner with three options there, wine, beer, or spirits. And in this case, selecting wine, I'll go ahead and I'll zoom it out a little bit so we can see here and close out our shapes space bar here again to drag it out. So the wine is now going to pop us into a section. We still don't know if this is a pop-up or if it's an accordion or a new page. It just basically opens it up here. Right now, I'm thinking probably of some sort of, I don't know if it's a drop down or a navigation that'll just have the red. These are kind of options, if you will, across here, right? So, we might want to consider just, maybe those are a different color. For example, this is our options, and I don't know what it looks like, right? But we have reds, whites, others. Under 20, it's its own category. Here I've added the thought of states and countries, right, to start filtering. I want wine and I want Argentina. I'm going to go ahead and have a list of states here. I didn't populate the list, or I'm sorry, countries. California, Oregon, Washington, states populate there. And even the beer categories, right? From a UI perspective, probably thinking these are a drop-down navigation, and when I hover, or on a phone, when I tap, then show down the actual list, right? So now in this case, let's say I click on cab here, the Sauvignon. Then I go down to my details page, and in the details page or section, right, the next module, my options are reduced down here to red, white wines, other wines, under 20 beer, spirits. Remember, up here I have it a slightly larger that has actually the actual country, states and countries, right? So just expanded that state, countries, you know, this is a navigational element I'm thinking. Um, I won't know if it works until I actually do the next portion of it, which is to do the UI. Okay, but that's going to stay there. But my detail section here, I have the product title. And once I have the product title, a product image, here, might be an expanded title. That maybe it's a cab, right? But this might be, Sonoma Valley cab or something along those lines. The price, the product description talks about the actual product. A quantity selector because I may want a one bottle, I may want a case, I may want two cases, right? So a quantity, this will be some sort of graphic where I can increase or decrease the quantity. And then again, the check availability. So the check availability is then going to check to see whether or not this particular product at that quantity is available. Dependencies here are assuming that our website is able to communicate with uh, our product database, so our inventory control system. and is able to pull records, right? So check availability. I need a response screen, probably along that, maybe the check needs to then, go green. Yes, it is available. And then I would display, let's open up a new one actually, a new shape here that would then say, hey, uh, your selection is available. So some sort of message, and then please call 1-800 dash buy dash wine to make your order. Okay. So something along those lines. So we need some type of, hey, this now is going to take me to this here, this available message. Okay. Now, if I don't like that, then I've got to create a back button, right? So selecting wine, for example, here, this might actually take me back up to this top one here, or selecting beer. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here and start creating some extra workflows. So I'm going to grab these here by just clicking and dragging across them like so. Hold down Alt and then drag it over. Even right across here, I'm going to come across Alt and then drag it over. And this time on this one here, I'm going to go from my beer button. I'm too zoomed out at this point. Spacebar. So if you've clicked something, you just got to click off of it. Spacebar there. Grab my beer, grab that, and then bring this all the way over to here and connect it right here to the beer column. At this point, I would, start populating this. So it's IPA, stouts, just populate my list, Imperial, and so on, right? And then I make my selection, and from my selections down here, right, I am now going to go ahead and go from this particular box over to this one here, okay? And I update my interface. So those are clickable. You got to be careful there. So I want the type tool, and then Imperial beers. Here. So click off of there. Remember, if it's selected, you got to click off of it to get out of that nested shape. Product title, price, image, product description, quantity. Oh, quantity, quantity there. Let's fix that typo. And check availability. And again, 1-800 buy beer or whatever the phone number is. Of course, I'm just being silly. Will take us through all the way here, right? So this navigational bar here is a constant. So that's basically how we're traveling back and forth. And what I just happened there is I going to Control Z. I drug that box in front of my actual table. But this table here is a navigational element, okay? So at this point, I'm going to zoom out, and then you would recreate, a third flow here. In this case, I do recommend you actually create that third flow. So again, just click and drag across what you need, and Alt drag it over, place it where you need it, and do the same for spirits, because you have to think through, like, I didn't have my beers listed, and as I list the beers, what happens to all of these? So definitely I'm thinking a drop down. This could just be a menu. So when I click here, I have a sub menu system that shows up, which is this. When I hover over these drop down. When I click on one, I go to this particular screen, but that menu system, this persists, it stays there at all times. So really it's starting to tell me that my user interface's banner has a hidden navigational system that displays, and it stays put, right? So that gives me one click for beer, one click for the type of beer, and then a third click to check availability. So that's my 3-click rule there. And you do the same for spirits because you don't know what you have to list. Am I also listing countries for beer? Like, does this country list disappear or change? Are the countries and states only available for the wine? These are questions that I may have not thought of that now I have to consider. Okay, so at this point now, I've got somewhat of a working workflow. Don't wait until your workflow is perfected. You're not going to be able to think of all the scenarios. Okay. The more you do this, the better you'll get at it. But what you want to do is get something that in your mind is a working prototype, and then we're going to switch out now of Figma into, of Figjam into Figma, because now we have a little bit of clarity. We need to build this particular banner and we need to build this navigational system. So that's where we're going to start our user interface design. And then immediately that's going to take us into font selection and color choices. So we better make sure we have that figured out already, or at least have a plan for that. So that's how we transition our brainstorm into a workflow. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect and you don't need to have everything figured out. It's just there until your idea starts solidifying. We can stop here now and start creating our user interface, what it actually looks like, and that's where we'll continue.